I don't ever want to hear anyone say a bad word about Giancarlo Stanton again.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm one of your hosts, Stacey Gotsulias. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. With me as usual, my co-host Brian McKeon.
Stacey, talk about a night for New York sports.
That's right. Yes, there were other things going on, but the most important thing, at least for us, the Yankees, but we'll talk all about it. Before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like our videos, hit the bell so you're notified when those videos go live, leave comments. So today's live show, previewing game 4, because finally it's a back-to-back days with games. So we have a game. And we'll be discussing the other big night in New York sports. But first, let's talk about our Yankees, because this is a Yankees podcast. And yay, hallelujah.
Yeah, I said on the short that I posted for the post game, who the heck had Giancarlo Stanton stealing a base on their bingo card? Yankees had 4 hits tonight. Giancarlo Stanton had 3 of them. For whatever I've been a defender of Giancarlo Stanton. I do want to say this. From the beginning, the entire time, not the beginning of our show, the beginning of them trading for him. Yankee fans, for whatever reason, maybe because he's not homegrown, I don't know what it is, love to hate Giancarlo Stanton. I don't know why. Every year he is a consistent 30 home runs, 80 RBIs for them. Yes, his average is low, but we know what he is. And he never has created a problem in the media, never has had a problem outside of the team. He has done, he's never said one cross word about the Yankees, ever. He has been a model citizen here, and for some reason, Yankee fans love to complain about him. And by the way, can we mention before praising him more? Yankee fans love to over-exaggerate how much money Giancarlo Stanton actually makes.
I was
love to.
Yeah.
If you listen to local sports radio, all you hear is, he makes 30, 35, 40, 45. Let me clear this up, please. Giancarlo Stanton counts for $22 million against the Yankees luxury tax every year. The Marlins eat $8 million of it per year. He makes $30 million a year. He counts for $22 million towards the luxury tax. For a 240 hitter that hits 30 home runs, 80 RBIs a year, $22 million is unbelievably affordable. Unbelievably affordable. For a model citizen who really just can't field and run the bases. He's a DH. Who couldn't do that either?
Except
Big
for tonight.
Papi.
Yeah.
Big Papi couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Lots of DHs in the history of baseball couldn't do that. Unbelievable night for him. And the only other thing about Stanton that I could absolutely always say, we've done all postseason pretty much is complain about Judge, right? Giancarlo Stanton has always hit in the postseason for them.
Yep.
Always.
Yep. There was an interesting stat where they said the only guy who's hit more home runs in the postseason, average-wise, per at bat or what? Babe Ruth.
Yeah, pretty good. And remember, Giancarlo Stanton, I don't think he played in a postseason game with the Marlins because they were always terrible when he was there. So he's only done the postseason games in the Yankees. And pretty much since he's gotten here, they've missed the postseason 1 year that he's been here. So he's been in the postseason almost every year since he's been here. And he's been healthy for the postseason. He has been a consistent performer for them in the postseason every single year. He's batting. You got to remember, too, they acquire Juan Soto. He's batting lower in the lineup. Never heard a peep out of him.
No.
He gets hurt multiple years, misses a lot of time. Yankee fans eviscerate him on the radio, on Twitter, everywhere. Never heard a peep out of him.
No.
Ryan Cashman, the GM of the team, called him out. Never heard a peep out of him. Giancarlo Stanton has never caused one issue with this team. And for some reason, it's got to be Timmy because they didn't draft him, which is a Yankee fan bias thing that I don't know where it comes from, but it is the truth. That they just hate on him. But I'm sorry, $22 million a year, consistent at the plate. I can't complain about Giancarlo Stanton. And he proved once again that he is a major, major piece of this team, because other than him and Juan Soto, they weren't hitting tonight.
No. I will say there were some good at-bats. Volpe, Cabrera.
Volpe had a really good bat, yeah.
Let's not discuss Verdugo swinging on the first pitch after the two guys ahead of him worked walks and then grounded out for the third out, because if I were sitting next to a wall, I probably would have punched it, because I was like, you could have broken the game open there, or at least not done what you always do, grounding the ball to the right side. But there were some good at-bats. Lugo wasn't as scary as he was in that start in September, which was a good thing.
Wasn't horrible either, though.
Right. He wasn't horrible. He wasn't as dialed in. And I was a little worried after the first inning that maybe he would get dialed in, but they knocked him out pretty early, which I was happy about. But if it weren't for Stanton, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about a win. Also, they should have won 4-2 because of that foul ball call that the umps messed up. The ump was right there. How do you not see that?
Yeah, I mean, they also should have, the fifth inning could have been a really key part when you had the bases loaded with Soto and Judge coming up and you got one run out of it. That was a major problem.
Oh, and the Judge check swing that wasn't a swing, that was called a swing. It was a great night for the umpires. Look, I know the Yankees got lucky with that Jazz Chisholm call on, was it Saturday?
Yep.
But you've made up for it already. Like 3 different times in this game. They're even. They're even now. You don't need to do anything.
If you've watched the entire Major League postseason, the umpiring has been atrocious.
Atrocious.
It's been really bad.
All over the place. And I don't understand this. You're supposed to have your best umpires in the playoff series. Like, at least that's my understanding. And these guys are abysmal. The home plate ump was bad on both sides. He had some interesting strike calls for both sides. And it's just, who wants to watch a game? These are important games. All right. The series was tied coming into this game. Whoever wins this game basically has the momentum of the series. You can't have horrible calls turn a series around. And it almost happened.
Yeah, I will say too, when the lineup came out, I didn't love Oswaldo being in there. Nothing against Oswaldo, but with the way Birdie played the other day, how good he was in the field, and listen, he only had 1 hit in the game, but if you watch Birdie's at-bats, he was hitting the ball in the screws the entire night in game 2. And for that reason, for whatever reason, we had to change things up and get cute and change who's playing at first base. Didn't love that decision at all. I think consistency at this time of the year helps these guys a lot, as opposed to not. It just felt like Boone was making a move for the sake of making a move. Kind of like the bullpen decision, and you basically waited until you had no option but to go to the bullpen, which is what they did when they brought in Holmes, which I didn't love. I thought Clark Schmidt was good. I did. And I thought he was dialed in for a lot of the game. Yeah. And then I think he started to panic and go a little stir crazy once he saw the bullpen warming up as soon as he came in the 5th inning. And Stacey, it just goes back to, and I was texting a lot of people during the game about this, and I think it's the truth. What is the obsession with getting to the bullpen as quick as possible?
It's the new age of baseball. God forbid a pitcher throws 5 full innings.
It's also an Aaron Boone thing too. Like you can't let the guy work through an issue. Clay Holmes was up as soon as the 5th inning started. Before Clark Schmidt had a chance to get himself into trouble, Clay Holmes was up. It almost felt like Boone was dying to get to the bullpen. Like he couldn't wait to get to the bullpen. I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. And it just felt like it was too premature. And I think there is something to Clark Schmidt walking out to the mound and seeing the guy up in the bullpen and being like, well, what the heck do I got to do to be able to pitch in this game? I think there's a little bit of an annoyance that gets into your head, and that could have to do with control issues. But other than that, Clark Schmidt was good. He wasn't great. He wasn't an ace. He was good. Yeah. And I think they needed that. It was a big start out of him. And I will say too, I do not agree with starting Gerrit Cole in game 4.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really either. We're going to talk about that in segment 3. What was I going to say? I completely lost my thought. Oh, let's give credit to Clay Holmes for the job that he did. Clay Holmes, Canely, Weaver. I was a little worried about
Weaver to me is the guy out of the bullpen with the biggest storyline. I gotta be honest with you.
I was worried about that move, and they were hitting the ball hard off him in the first inning that he pitched, and then he looked like a completely different pitcher in the ninth inning. It was amazing.
Well, I think he settled down. I think it's a lot to ask a guy who has never gone multiple innings in Major League Baseball, but definitely has never gone multiple innings to close a game out in the postseason. And now you're asking him to get a 5-out save, which is something that they didn't even trust. They didn't trust Holmes to do. They never trusted Chapman to do, really. And now you're asking Clay Holmes to come in and give you not Clay Holmes. You're asking Luke Weaver to come in, get you a 5-out save. Has he been really good? Yes. But I don't know if I would have trusted that necessarily at all. And they did. And he was incredible. He really was. I mean, everything about how he pitched, he was very stoic out there, didn't seem to panic. And he was getting hit hard in the first inning, but it seemed like once he got to the guy, he was like, all right, I can do this. I only got 1 inning to go. Yeah. And he came in and pitched. He was dialed in the ninth inning.
Yeah. Good job by all. Thank goodness. But it's almost like Boone managed the bullpen thinking there was an off day tomorrow, because now what happens in game 4? But
well, I think you treat these games one game at a time. Like you don't think about tomorrow. You think about right here, right now, get this win, and then we deal with tomorrow. At this point, if the Yankees win a World Series, but Luke Weaver's arm falls off, you take that. Right. That's what the Cubs did with Chapman.
Yeah. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notification so you know when our videos go up. Also, reply to the pinned comment on our videos Monday through Thursday if you would like your questions answered for Fan Mail Friday. You can also join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. For Fan Mail Friday, you get top priority. And otherwise, you get to text us. We text you. I texted out the lineup. I had lots of reactions to the game. I was going back and forth with some people in there, and it's a lot of fun. There's a 14-day free trial, so try it out and see if you like it. Coming up next, let's talk a little more about this, but then let's also talk about the crosstown team, because my goodness, baseball playoffs are wild.
This episode of Locked On Yankees is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.com, booking.yeah. You can explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about, like Cleveland, Detroit, hopefully not Kansas City anymore, but you can definitely book your hotel on Booking.com if you want to see Kansas City at a different time of year. With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more. On Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball team's rival city during the postseason. Maybe it's time to taste test your baseball competition stadium cuisine. Luckily, on Booking.com, you can find the stadium stay that's just right for you. No matter what team you're rooting for this postseason, Booking.com can make you a fan of any U.S. city. So from hotels that overlook stadiums to family-friendly resorts and cute bed and breakfasts, Booking.com has so many choices across the United States. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your baseball rivals. Booking.com, booking.yeah. Locked On Yankees is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike on other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Want to play Prize Picks alongside Drewski, Joe Budden, and MMA champ Sugar Sean O'Malley? You can now find community plays under the promos tab in the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Prize Picks puts their members first, so with all withdrawals, they're fast, they're safe, and secure. And when my picks hit, I get my money in as quickly as 15 minutes. You can get NFL bets in, the NBA preseason's underway, college basketball is getting going, baseball playoffs. It's all available on Prize Picks. And all you have to do is download the Prize Picks app today and use code one word, Locked On MLB, to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code one word, Locked On MLB on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even have to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. And don't forget, everyone, that you can catch every pitch of the Yankees hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees. So Stacey, it was kind of quasi-released, announced, not really officially, but it was that Gerrit Cole will be starting game 4 for the New York Yankees, really no matter what happened. And I thought on all accounts, all around, this was the wrong decision. I don't understand letting it be announced before the game starts. What benefit does that do you?
Right.
It doesn't. Why let the Royals know who's pitching? I don't like at bare minimum make them question it. I don't understand that at all. But also, explain this to me. Why would you start him in game 4 now, especially when you're up 2-1 in the series? And, game 4 is, and I don't want to necessarily call it a house money game, but if you lose game 4, you get game 5 back at home in the Bronx. That's the game to use Gerrit Cole in. Right. By using him in game 4, especially if they didn't have a serviceable game 4 starter, I would absolutely say throw Gerrit Cole out there. In the years past where they had Davy Garcia throwing in elimination games, yeah, throw out Gerrit Cole. But right now, you're up 2-1 in the series against a team that really is struggling to score runs. You have Luis Gil available to you, who hasn't pitched now in forever. Why would you use Gerrit Cole in this spot? Now, if the Yankees somehow lose this game that Gerrit Cole plays in, which, by the way, the Royals didn't have a ton of trouble with. Gerrit Cole wasn't elite in game 1. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't great. The Royals aren't that afraid of Gerrit Cole. You're going to pitch him in game 4. If you lose that game, he's unavailable for game 5, which would be a do-or-die game. You'd have Carlos Rodon pitching, who the Royals proved to be able to hit. And now, by pitching him in game 4, whether you use him in game 4, potentially are going to use him in game 5, Gerrit Cole is definitively not available until at least game 2 of the ALCS. I don't understand this move. It doesn't make any sense to me. I get wanting to end the series and not having it go back to New York, but when you have that cushion, that safety net behind you, why would you intentionally throw him in game 4? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I don't understand why they announced that before the game. I mean, did they think they were going to lose on Wednesday?
Why let the Royals know too? Like, what is your advantage to letting them know? Why not make it a secret?
Yeah. Well, the only thing that makes me feel better is Cole tends to, like, when he has an iffy start, he comes out the next start and does well. And I'm hoping that that's the case on Thursday with him. But I mean, I wouldn't feel comfortable putting Gil out there because he hasn't pitched in nearly 2 weeks at this point.
Well, I'd feel comfortable in this game because they're up in the series.
I just want it over, but I'm like them. I just want it over with. I don't want them going back to New York. I want it 3-1 done, and then worry about the ALCS.
Well, you want Cleveland and Detroit to go to 5 now because you want Detroit to have to use Skubal in game 5.
Right.
No, you want if it's Detroit, you want them to use Skubal in game 5. You want them to have to do that. And by the way, I think Detroit's going to win that series.
I think so too. It's crazy. Cleveland got off to that big start in game 1 and they haven't scored since.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, Detroit is they're on an incredible roll right now, and I really feel like they kind of scare me. They do, but we don't got to discuss that until the Yankees take care of business like they need to tomorrow or later on today. I guess no, tomorrow.
Well, it's tomorrow while we do the live show, but if you're listening to this on audio, it's today.
Yes, good. If you're listening to an audio, good morning, and it's today.
Yes.
I will say, this is another kind of win. Was it what the Yankees expected? No. Was it how you necessarily draw up every Yankee win this year? No. But they went ahead and got the win. It doesn't really matter how you do it in the postseason. They got the win. Yeah. And in a game where it felt like a lot of the time they could have blew this game, they held it together. Bullpen pitched well, and they got the win. For all of, I will say, it is starting to worry me a little bit about Aaron Judge. It feels like he's in one of his normal slumps, which is not a good time for him to be in one. But also, let's not ignore it's a storyline because it's Aaron Judge, and I understand that. There is another superstar in this series who is not hitting at all, and that guy's Bobby Witt Jr. He has got his first hit of the series tonight, and that was a ground ball to the shortstop that just got through between the second baseman and the shortstop. So, Bobby Witt's getting no attention in this series whatsoever, and Aaron Judge is getting all the blame. Not that Aaron Judge doesn't deserve some blame, but, I don't think it's as big of a deal as people are making it out to be. I will say that. However, it is concerning me that he has looked so bad, and I do think he's pressing.
I will say this, his first 2 at-bats, he hit the ball hard twice, which actually made me feel better about it because he wasn't it's when he's striking out all the time that worries me more. When he makes contact, I feel a little better about it because I feel like he's getting closer to actually doing something. So his first 2 at-bats made me feel better.
He looks off balance though on his swings and misses, though.
Yeah.
He does look. And Michael came in a good point on his show yesterday that I really liked is when Judge is on and he has a swing and a miss, he stays even in the batter's box. He doesn't move off of his spot. He stays very anchored to the floor.
That's kind of like Glaber's the same way. Like when he's falling off over the plate, swinging like out of his shoes.
They're not balanced.
Yeah.
And
Glaber's the same way.
You're seeing that out of Judge right now is when he has swings and misses, he's not balanced and he's falling over into the other batter's box or he's catching his feet. That's not a good sign. I do think, the one, if any, good point that Bob Costas made during the broadcast was the fact that, Judge is such a great player. He will break out of this at some point. And it's not crazy to state that. At some point, great players break out of these kind of slumps. You just got to hope the Yankees stay alive in the postseason long enough to give Judge time to break out of the slump.
Right.
He's currently really going through it right now. And you can tell that he's pressing a little bit.
Yeah. Let's talk about Costas, please, because there's that one play that Volpe made, that catch, that was very impressive because that ball was really doing some strange things when it hit his glove. And Costas called it a base hit, thinking that it got through. I don't know what he was looking at. And Darling's like, no, it was a catch. And what? What is going on?
I did see some comments in our chat as we were starting the show, and I do want to address this because I don't think this is fair either. Saying that Costas has been anti-Yankee, I think is wrong. I don't think he's been anti-Yankee at all. I think he's called a very up-the-middle broadcast. Doesn't seem like he's favoring either team. What I will say is he just hasn't called a good series.
No, I think because he doesn't call baseball often anymore. You can't.
He calls it like it's the 70s.
Yeah, well, that too. He talks too much. You're not Vin Scully, Bob. Like, you can't do that sort of thing. He was yapping so much that it's almost like there's not a game going on. Like, Paul, what's happening?
It's too prophetic. It's too much about preaching and baseball. And I love baseball. I love old school baseball. I love all of it. But like, Bob, it's a playoff game. Like nobody needs to hear. They a lot of weird things TBS did. Like, I didn't understand too the whole inning interview with George Brett. George Brett's a great all-time player. He really is. And that those Yankee series from back in the day were incredible in the fights and they hate each other. Wonderful. That is a great interview for Yankees-Royals series in June.
Yeah.
We do not need to be hearing that. It's a playoff game. I don't need to hear George Brett talking about the good old days during a playoff game. That was so uncalled for.
It wasn't even just that, though. When Soto scored, what was with the camera work? Yeah. What was with the camera work? Yeah, it's as if TBS doesn't do baseball games, and they do them all the time. It is awful what's happening. I was also watching the Mets-Phillies game, and AJ Przinsky doesn't shut up either.
It's gotten to this point where you can't have these crews doing these games that don't work together all year.
Right.
It's the benefit that the NHL and the NFL and really the NBA all have with their playoffs, though. They consistently have national televised games. So when Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are doing a game together for the NFL in the postseason, it's not their first game together. It's their 19th of the season, and there's a rhythm there. The same reason when Kenny Albert and Eddie Olczyk are doing a game in the NHL, they've been doing games the entire season together. So it's not like they're out of sync. And yet we've got, I'm sorry, and it's the truth too. I think the Fox crew could be really good at times that does the MLB pre and post game with A-Rod. I think A-Rod's a pretty good broadcaster out there with Burkhardt and Jeter. I enjoy the broadcast. However, why are these guys working together as a panel for a month a year during the postseason? And that's it. Oh, they do the All-Star game too. That's it. They don't work together at all ever. So they're doing this show for the first time in almost a year. It makes absolutely no sense. Every other professional sport has their panel together the entire season, right? The NFL's got the NFL Today on CBS. They're all together. So the regular season, they're together. And the postseason, they're all together. Why is baseball the one sport where these guys only work together in the playoffs? So they're not prepared for anything? It makes absolutely no sense, Stacey.
Yeah. And it's, I was going to say, like, you have different networks showing football, but the networks themselves are all uniform. So you hear the same guys all the time. There's no real deviation from the national guys. But when it comes to Fox and TBS, it just, I don't know. We got to move on because we have to get into the next segment, but they have to do something about the broadcasting system. They also have to do something about the schedule. Let's discuss that too, on top of let's discuss the Mets, because oh my goodness, we're going to talk about that next.
Hey, NFL fans, you could start this season off with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. So when you get to hunch in the middle of the game, you can check the latest stats, review live, play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you can place your bets. We're at week 5 already of the NFL season. It is absolutely insane. It's already here. We're a month through. It doesn't get better. And then you get college football on Saturday. Baseball playoffs are still going. The NBA is getting going. It is unbelievable. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All of it available on FanDuel.com. And remember that you can catch every pitch of the Yankees' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees.
Quickly, I just want to talk about the schedule because it's bugging me. I don't think it's fair for the American League teams to have played every other day, and now they're finally playing back-to-back games, where the NLDSs were normal. You get the 2 games back-to-back, a travel day, 2 games if necessary. I don't understand. I mean, I understand because it's a TV scheduling thing, but it's not fair. It's not fair. It's ridiculous.
It's stupid.
Baseball is a game of rhythm and timing. And when you have 2 teams, the Guardians and the Yankees, who were already off 6 days, so they were already not really in a rhythm, although the Guardians came out and scored those 7 runs, but they've kind of been off the last couple of games. It's not fair. I get that you want to show all these games, but you got to find a different way to do this because it's not fair for one league to have it be normal and the other league, yeah, let's do it every other day. What is that?
There's a million issues. I don't know why for games, for game 3s and game 4s, we have all 4 teams playing on the exact same day. What are we doing? Right. And then Detroit has a home playoff game for the first time in a decade, and you have them playing at 3:00 in the afternoon.
Although it didn't matter because everyone was there. I mean, the place was packed. They had the biggest crowd that they've had since, I guess, the last time they were in, or maybe even before that. But
wonderful. I'm really happy.
I know.
I'm really happy that Detroit broke a record for people calling out sick in a day today. Wonderful. It doesn't make sense why you would play that game at 3:00 on a Wednesday when a lot of people just even forget that the place is packed. It was wonderful that it was, but it makes it harder for people to get to the game. And also the vibe during a night game, like sports is all about vibes. The vibes during a night game is so much better. And now Detroit's not going to play a night game because they're not a major market. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I don't get what they're doing. I don't think anyone really understands what they're doing. The scheduling makes absolutely no sense. How come every other sports league has figured this out? Right?
Yeah, and then baseball never figures anything out. They don't figure out how to market their players. They don't figure out how to schedule their playoff system. They also can't figure out, I said this last week, I believe, if you're going to put an extra round in the playoffs, you need to shorten the season by a week.
Yeah.
You can't have 162 games. You have to shorten it and make that if you're going to have an extra week of playoff games.
Well, and also, how about this? If you're going to, clearly what they tried to do is stagger the games so you can try and watch every single game. And I get what you're doing. Here's the problem, Stacey. If you're going to stagger your games, you can't stagger them by 2 hours when the average game lasts 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Right.
You can't stagger them because now if you were watching the Met game, you're not going to tune into the start of the Yankee game because if you've watched the whole Met game, you're definitely going to be locked in for no pun intended. You're definitely going to be locked in for the last third of that Met game. right? So while the last third of that Met game is being played, the first third of the Yankee game is being played. Why would you have them overlap at the most important part of a game? Now the entire audience that you're looking to watch the Yankee game is not watching the Yankee game because they're on the Met game. And now the audience that's locked in on the Yankee game is going off of the Met game during the most important part of the game. So a lot of people that were watching that Met game that either switched over to the Yankees, either people missed the start of the Yankees or switched over to the Yankees and missed Lindor's home run.
We were switching back and once the Yankee game started, we were switching back and forth. Like whenever there was a commercial.
Regardless, though, what are you doing? It defeats the whole purpose of staggering these games if you're going to stagger them by 2 hours.
Yeah.
It makes stagger them by 3 hours. Do your little stupid post-game thing in the middle if there's time to kill in the middle, and let each game stand alone. Why is the NFL figured it out? And again, I'm okay with playing afternoon games on a Saturday or a Sunday. Why are we playing afternoon games on a Wednesday at 3 p.m.?
Yeah.
What are we doing? And don't give me because you want the games to be alone. The NHL plays way more. They have more rounds and they have more games in each round. Okay. The NHL playoffs last for 2.5 months.
It's so long.
But yes. And I love it. They're great. But allow me to just say one thing. The NHL playoffs, they have all of these teams playing on the same nights. Somehow they figure it out. And they're all playing at night. You don't see the Rangers dropping the puck at 2 p.m. at the Garden on a Tuesday. No one's doing that. And baseball is far more of a regional sport than hockey is, especially in the postseason. Okay? Basketball, same thing. Egregiously long postseason. The Knicks are not playing at noon on a Tuesday at the Garden. They're not doing that. I don't know why. Baseball is the only sport that does that, other than football, but football is king. I mean, football can do whatever they want because you have, 30 million people watching an NFL playoff game. You have 1.2 million watching a baseball game. So football can do whatever they want. And also, the NFL plays on Saturday and Sunday in the playoffs. So they can afford to play a game at 1 o'clock because most people are off from work. But playing a game at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday in Detroit when, the average national baseball fan would be excited to watch that game because it's the first game with one of your original franchises playing the first playoff game in a decade with a young, spunky team that shouldn't really be there. You start the game at 3 p.m. so no one on the planet can watch. Make it make sense. This sport, and this is the problem, Stacey. They're not up against. They're competing with themselves, and they shoot themselves in the foot. This isn't. Your ratings aren't stinking because you're going up against the NFL on a Sunday. And you know what? Tip your cap. The NFL gets more viewers, whatever. That's going to happen. Stacey, you were the only sport on today. And you lost your own battle. Made no sense. Speaking of other sports being played, we didn't mention this. Rangers started their season tonight. New York Rangers. They won the game 6-0. So if you were focused on baseball like I was, Rangers won 6-0 in their first game of the season. That's unbelievably impressive. The New York Knicks won a preseason game tonight, so they won a game. And the New York Mets, if you missed that, won their game. And I mentioned it just briefly before. Francisco
series.
Francisco Lindor with a go-ahead grand slam down 2-0.
I saw it
late in this game. Unbelievable. It didn't look like it was gone off the bat.
Oh, no, I knew it. I was like, that is going out. I know it is. It's just they're having this kind of postseason. My God, it's unbelievable watching that team. They're never out of it. And
no,
as soon as the bases became loaded, I'm like, they're hitting a grand slam here. I could feel it in my gut. I knew it, especially because they were like, oh, magic. Lindor hasn't done this and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, he's going to hit a grand slam. I know it.
They have some kind of magic. You've got guys that are 112 years old pitching gems for them. Like Jose Quintana, pitching like an absolute ace. The night before, Manaea. I mean, just guys that are outcasts completely, that are, dealing for them. They look borderline unstoppable right now. And yeah. I do think it hurts them if the Dodgers, the Dodgers currently are up 5-0 on the Padres in the 6th inning as we record this. If that game goes if that series goes 5, I do think it hurts the Mets a little bit. Because now with this, this Magic consistently playing every day, now you're, taking a seat. I think that hurts. It is so crazy that the Phillies are out this early with the level of talent on their roster. And that's why, I'll fully admit right now that I lost a nice amount of money betting the Phillies in this series because I took it as most talented roster. And it's true. The Phillies have an all-star at bats 1 through 6 in the lineup. And yet, it just goes to show baseball playoffs you just don't know what's going to happen. Congrats to Mets fans. Congrats to you guys. I have a lot of friends that are Mets fans. Really happy for you guys. It is a wild run that team is on right now. It is unbelievable.
It's just shocking to see the Phillies look so bad. They looked bad in that series. It wasn't like, I don't know. It wasn't like they just lost games. They just looked awful. Certain guys that you expect to do things weren't doing things. And, pitchers that had been okay all year, giving up big hits. And the Mets are on
Ranger Suarez did deal for them too. But even throughout the game, if you watched at the beginning of that game, I mean, he was loading the bases constantly. He was in and out of trouble that entire game.
I really can't believe he made it as long as he did.
Neither did I. I mean, he honestly, like, as much trouble as he got himself in, it was equally as impressive as a star. I mean, he was really getting himself out of trouble constantly in that game. Really played well. This team, I do think the time off will hurt them a little bit. They don't want all this time off probably, but oh dear, how good are they playing? Because I personally am really rooting for a Mets Padres NLCS because would that be a lot of fun? They're the two hottest teams in baseball right now. Yeah. And colliding each other in a playoff series would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, Tigers are in there too, as
they're playing really hot too. We should discuss that too before we wrap up here because the Guardians just not showing up again and getting shut out after like you said, blowing up in game 1.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you got in 2 straight games of getting shut out.
Like with the way they started in game 1, you thought, oh wow, okay, maybe the Tigers' run is over because they just looked overmatched. Nothing was doing for them, and they've come out and shut them out in the last couple of games. I think they said this is the first playoff series where each game was a shutout. Like, wow. It's the first time that the first 3 games are shutouts by either team, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, and considering, besides Scooble, who's really pitching for Detroit? Like, you have bullpen games going on in the playoffs, and they're doing great. Between
the 3 teams that are like sizzling hot right now, between the Padres, the Mets, and the Tigers, what's weird is the Padres and the Mets both at least have like notable names around Major League Baseball on them, right? Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, like the Padres, Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado. You've got notable names. I mean, Kyle Higashioka, who's becoming a household name. He's now best friends with Tom DeLonge from Blink-182. All incredible. But I will say, the Tigers don't have those notable household names, right? Not Miguel Cabrera is gone. Scooble's great, but he hasn't become a household name yet necessarily. Other than that, you've got a lot of guys like Torkelson and random players that no one's ever heard of that are just making things happen. By the way, too, the only notable name that you know around baseball that's on the Tigers that isn't playing is Javi Baez.
Right.
And for some reason, they're figuring it out day by day. The most popular name on the Tigers is their manager, AJ Hinch.
Yeah.
I know a lot of Yankee fans in this chat can't stand AJ Hinch for very good reason. He is managing his butt off, though.
Yeah.
He's doing some job with every game's a bullpen game. He's got guys completely bought in. He's pinch hitting guys in the 3rd, 4th inning. They are completely bought in as a team and as an organization, and they are doing some heck of a job.
Yep. Thank you guys for joining us for this live show, and I'm glad it was a celebratory live show, and hopefully our live show following Thursday's game will also be a celebratory live show. We'll see. So yeah, there's your programming note. We're going live after game 4. Hopefully it'll be a win. Let's all cross our fingers for that. Thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. Now go check out Locked On MLB. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day. The link to Locked On MLB is in our description, so you don't need to search. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you check out the Locked On Yankees postcast right here on the Locked On Yankees podcast feed, audio, as well as streaming on the Locked On Sports New York YouTube channel. Get rapid reaction to all the biggest moments with the Locked On Yankees postcast. So that'll do it for this live edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll catch you all tomorrow.